From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's Daily News. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. This morning, we've got quite a few important stories for you. You may remember a number of international students here in Idaho who had their visas revoked. Well, we've got an update. Plus, we have the latest climate and drought outlook for our region. And up first, a story you won't want to miss. It's regarding safety and health conditions at public pools across Idaho. It is Tuesday, the 29th of April, and here come today's stories. So why would anyone think it's a good idea to have Idaho's health district stop inspecting public pools? That's exactly what will happen beginning July 1st, because that's what House Bill 202 will make happen. It's important to note that it was passed almost unanimously by the Idaho House and Senate.
I think if you ask most of the legislators, did you realize that you voted on this? My guess is they would probably say no. That's unfortunate, but I guess that's the way it goes.
This is Russ Duke, Executive Director of Central District Health, one of Idaho's 7 health districts. The Central District provides health services to Ada, Boise, Elmore, and Valley counties, and for the record, there are 36 public swimming pools in the district. But
the rules become obsolete on July 1, and there'll no longer be a public swimming pool inspection program in Idaho.
Now to the legislation.
House Bill 202 was quite a lengthy bill.
It's a significant revision to Idaho Code covering everything from juvenile justice to air quality. And then, on page 18, specifically Section 56-1003, 3C, which reads, "The enforcement of minimum standards of health, safety, and sanitation for all public swimming pools within the state." And then it is completely crossed out.
There wasn't really much, or not at all, communication with our pool owners and operators, because when we reached out to them after the law passed saying, hey, here's what's going on, none of them were even aware of it. So it was, not an ideal approach. If you're going to make policy, I would have thought that there would have been conversations with the Idaho Association of Cities, where most of these currently regulated pools are, or bring the Parks and Rec directors and others together and kind of talk through this, because it's left us in a spot of scrambling to figure out what to do now in a relatively short period of time.
So how about the lawmakers that sponsored House Bill 202? Here's GOP Senator Julie Van Orden of Pocatello, presenting the bill to her fellow lawmakers in March.
Big swimming pools in communities really are not being built that much anymore.
That's not entirely true. As recent as the last couple of years, public pools have or are being built or remodeled in Boise, Caldwell, Cascade, Orofino, and Van Orden's hometown of Pocatello. As for private pools, the legislature pulled pools at hotels and health clubs from inspections back in 2002. Russ Duke says he thinks it would be a pretty good idea to inspect those too, plus hot tubs, because recently there was a pretty bad health incident at a private gym.
A couple years ago, we had an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease where there were a few people made sick. One person was in the ICU I had heard for eight days as a result of that.
So, what to do? For now, Duke wants to inspect public pools sooner than later, certainly before July 1st.
So that's going to happen for all the pools that we currently regulate. So we'll get that done.
In Boise, where thousands of kids jump in and out of public pools every summer, we reached out to Parks and Rec Director Doug Holloway, who told us he'd like to see if somehow they could continue to work with Central District Health after July 1st. Russ Duke says that might be possible, but only if cities were to pass their own ordinances.
That would require certain standards be met. And we could be designated as the regulatory authority, so we could continue to do the work in those cities that chose to go down that path.
And he says state lawmakers might want to reconsider the end of public pool inspections when they return to the Capitol in 2026. For the record, there was one lawmaker, one out of the entire House and Senate, that voted against House Bill 202. That was Democratic Senator Melissa Wintrow of Boise. Earlier this month, the Trump administration, without explanation, abruptly revoked the visas of roughly 1,800 international students, including 5 students studying here in Idaho. Julie Lucata has the latest.
Earlier this month, the online publication Inside Higher Ed compiled a list of international students across the country whose visas were revoked. Idaho Ed News confirmed 4 students at the University of Idaho and 1 attending the College of Idaho in Caldwell saw their legal status terminated. On Friday, the Department of Justice said it had restored or was planning on restoring the immigration records of hundreds of students. NPR reports the decision comes after judges in more than 50 nationwide cases ordered the records to be reinstated. A spokesperson for the University of Idaho confirmed by email the 4 affected students had their records restored and were able to continue attending classes without interruption. The university added they were not notified about the students' status changes and did not know what the process looked like. The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Department, or ICE, communicated with students directly. It's unclear whether students attending schools in the state had their visas revoked in the first place. Idaho Ed News reports the 5th student attending the College of Idaho also had their legal status restored. The college did not respond to a request for details. Julie Duqueta, Boise State Public Radio News.
Meteorologists and water managers from across the region were briefed Monday on conditions, current conditions, and, in the near future, first up the so-called water year, which gets going in October and peaks through the winter months. The water year thus far for our region has not been ideal.
The 2025 water year has had above normal temperatures really across the whole region. For Idaho, across parts of southern Idaho and in the northern panhandle have been a bit on the dry side. And then the locations that border Oregon and Washington have been normal to above normal precipitation for the water year so far.
This is Karen Bambacco of the Washington State Climate Center.
Some drier than normal conditions around the Pacific Northwest. April will very likely come in with below normal precipitation numbers for each state. And then I wanted to point out specifically southern Idaho, where for the last 30 days they've received less than half of their normal precipitation across much of that region.
Of a more immediate nature, here is Amy Burke of the Northwest River Forecast Center. She says, yes, we'll get some precipitation in the next several days, but not that much.
So we can see that we will think almost everybody is going to get some rain in the next 5 days. But this right-hand map are indicating areas where that rain will be less than normal.
And then to the all-important wildland fire forecast, which is normal for May, but then the risk grows significantly in the coming months.
And then really in July, things kick in, and they are predicting above normal fire potential outlook for much of our region.
All of this part of Monday's Drought and Climate Outlook from the USDA's Northwest Climate Hub. And that is today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Prentice. We'll see you back here on Wednesday to stay in touch with the news between now and then. Check out BoiseStatePublicRadio.org or download the free Boise State Public Radio app. And thanks for listening.